Welcome everyone to another wonderful podcast of SOC Stars, where we'll talk about threat hunting and AI, autonomous SOC, a whole mix of things. The way the market is going, everything is changing, and the security market as well. My name is Vlad Babiuk with Stellar Cyber, and I will be your moderator / host / the guy who's actually going to be asking the questions to the special folks who we have here with us today. And speaking of guests, today we got the threat hunting dream team from RSM. These are the folks who eat, sleep, and breathe cyber defense, while the rest of us are just, trying to remember our Wi-Fi password, like myself today. So let's get right to it. Todd, why don't you kick things off and introduce yourself and the rest of your team?
Vlad, thanks for the warm introduction as usual. My name is Todd Willoughby. I'm the director here at RSM Defense. I lead all of the operations side of the RSM Defense business, so that includes threat hunting, rolls up under me. I've brought to you two of our brightest here today, Ben McGavin, who is our threat hunting team lead, and Justin Dolgos.
Welcome everyone to this great podcast. Ben, Justin, pleasure meeting you folks, and Todd, as always, it's great having you back here on the podcast of the SOC Stars. I'll get it started because, there's a lot of interesting things that are happening. As you've probably heard, we have the autonomous SOC world that's kind of changing the whole landscape around the security. But threat hunting changes with it as well. So I wanted to get your perspective with the rise of the whole next-gen SIEM, TDIR, the unified SOC, AI-driven SOCs, you name it. Some wonder if manual threat hunting is becoming obsolete. Why does it still matter in your perspective?
I've run many threat hunting teams in my life. My career here, I've been in the industry for about 20 years. Manual threat hunting, I can tell you, is far from obsolete. A lot of the next-gen SIEMs and AI greatly accelerate detection and automate routine tasks. Human hunters are going to remain critical for discovering advanced stealthy threats that evade automated systems and detection mechanisms. Manual threat hunting, again, and Ben and Justin can definitely you'll see this here when they start talking about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. But manual threat hunting still requires and leverages human intuition, experience, and a lot of their contextual insight to spot these subtle patterns and investigate what I would say the edge cases are, and really use that to, A, find the activity, and B, fine-tune the rules that are going into these next-gen SIEMs so we don't miss them in the future, and they provide better detections for ongoing investigations for the SOC. Again, cyber criminals are constantly evolving, tactics, and manual threat hunting, is going to provide that creative and adversary edge focused needed to stay ahead of what they're doing.
Completely agree. How about you guys, Ben or Justin? What's your input on this?
The main thing that I think AI struggles with, and I'm not an AI denier. That's not the type of person I am. I know there's a lot of resistance to it throughout cybersecurity and also just tech and the world in general. I think it's a great tool, but it's more of a tool in the arsenal as opposed to something that's going to replace us all, at least in this industry. I think that's really important to remember, is that AI is great, especially in its current iteration. Maybe in 10 years, it might be to the level that I think it could be close to a human hunter, but we're still well outside of that. We're just barely scratching the surface into AI actually being generative and not just going off of what it's learned. So that combined with the fact that of what Todd said, as far as human intuition, AI is great, but if you ask AI to help you with a threat hunt, tends to think everything's malicious right away if it's slightly outside the norm. And that's absolutely not, that's not how the threat hunting goes in real life. The vast majority of things that we threat hunt for have gotten past all the security systems, and generally speaking, the vast majority of it is okay activity. So I think that's where it struggles the most, AI in its current iteration, to compete with humans, is being able to think about context. I think context is the biggest struggle for AI.
Awesome. That's great input, guys. Anything else you guys want to add to this?
Yeah, I think AI narrows the haystack, but the intent lives in the gray where judgment actually matters. And at RSM, Stellar Cyber surfaces promising signals, but humans decide the intent, business impact. Human oversight shapes better detections and closes blind spots and protects the business overall. So automation accelerates, but hunters provide the compass, and that's automation with human oversight, really.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? I echo exactly what you guys are saying. I think threat hunting remains the essential, because attackers essentially continuously find ways to evade some of the automated detections that we have, some of the agents and everything that's coming out right now in this new exciting autonomous world of ours. Even with AI and automation, I think the human-led hunts essentially uncover advanced threats that machine rules haven't yet learned to detect, essentially. So that combination of human creativity and AI-driven data analysis is what closes kind of the gap. So I kind of look at it like the AI surfaces the anomaly faster maybe, but the human is the interpreter, the one that interprets the intent and the context. There's actually a great survey that was done by Cardinal Ops that showed that automation adoption is rising, but not complete. So there's actually only like 16% that are report that are fully automated cyber response, and 64% are still feel essentially overwhelmed by false positives, which underscores, the need for human-driven hunts to separate that noise from the signals. Coming to the next question of the day that we have for this particular podcast, moving the reactive to proactive kind of security. How do you think are modern SOCs using the TDR, next-gen SIM, and the automation to shift from reactive detection to proactive defense?
Yeah, so modern SOCs, again, I think some do it better than others. I'll put it that way. Here at RSM Defense, we like to use the automation systems that we have and AI systems to supplement, I would say, the low-hanging fruit, right? And I say supplement, not completely do. We have to have, back to the last point, a human in the loop somewhere to understand, context around that threat. When we say low-hanging fruit, also, I'm talking about your login location anomalies, your travel anomalies, things of that nature. Because, again, the industry saying is attackers don't break in, they log in now, right? Identity and logging in and getting that first level, detecting that bad login is really key to where we're looking at. And being proactive around that means not letting the AI handle all of it, but maybe looking at it in aggregate after the AI handles it, right? So that we can determine the anomalies through there. And that's something that Justin and Ben do on a daily basis, is look at the anomalies and try to figure out what doesn't match patterns, right? The other thing around that is AI does a very good job of right now prioritizing alerts. And so the SOC can anticipate other emerging threats that may be a result of those alerts that may not necessarily be known through the actual detection use case that's being triggered around that alert, but it allows them to quickly validate too, which also doesn't have them down rabbit holes per se, where Justin and Ben have to go do those rabbit holes, right? That allows our SOC to be pretty nimble and flexible in terms it comes to response times, because again, we're getting signals, hundreds of thousands of signals. I think last quarter, we ingested about 500,000 alerts in one quarter through all of our platforms, including Stellar Cyber. Boiling that down and trying to highlight what's important, and then taking that and letting Ben and Justin loose on it and determine what is anomalous out of it is a big way to be proactive. The third piece of that is using that data that AI produces. We want to go look and see what infrastructure our clients are talking to. That is another great way of threat hunting, to see why are our clients communicating to these ASNs in certain regions of the world, right? What business use cases do you have communicating with these places? And what we end up finding out of that is they don't have any business use case. And that's where Ben and Justin start asking questions, right? And doing what they do best every day.
Awesome. That's great. Completely agree with you. Ben, Justin, anything you guys want to add to this?
Yeah, Vlad, I think Todd really hit it on the head. I would just say, as far as proactive defense is concerned, I think just like any other line of cybersecurity or IT in general, we have very monotonous tasks that need to be handled. And I think that's where AI excels, is in not the really monotonous, repetitive tasks that we have. There are threats that we have to hunt for at all times. And sometimes it's really basic, low-level stuff. And I think AI moving forward is going to be a lot better at helping present those threats to us, the potential threats, a lot better. And like Todd said, let it go through the low-hanging fruit, let it go through the really basic stuff, and really just show the threat hunting team what really matters. Get a lot of the noise out of there. Again, we're never going to be, I think, comfortable with fully turning off human eyes from looking at the low-level stuff. But if we can get the vast majority of it dealt with autonomously, I think that really helps the threat hunting team focus on what matters.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you guys as well on that one.
When it comes to proactive defense as well, with automation, we're able to stop chasing the alerts and start shipping out detections. So at RSM, we treat detections like product. We version them, we test them, and iterate. With Stellar Cyber's ATH, the automated threat hunting rules, since it's so simple to add new detection logic quickly, we're able to turn those on, and we've already caught novel attack scanning from them. So that automation enriches and routes, but humans review the high impact actions on those. We're able to have that proactive defense because we have that easy iteration by the tool and then that human oversight for safety.
That is some great input, and I agree with you guys. I mean, when I look at the market itself, to try to be a little bit more proactive than reactive itself, I kind of see it with the three different shifts: the unified telemetry plus this kind of long horizon analytics. So when you have like next-gen SIEM solution or XDRs that correlate between endpoints, network, identity cloud over time, and essentially enabling you that kind of pattern of life in order to get that baselining. And you're seeing a lot of this kind of consolidation happening right now on the market, whether it's from some of the bigger folks like Google, Microsoft. You hear that word, that SecOps, that unified, that TDAR. All of that kind of plays in your favor as well in order to be able to be proactive. And then there's this continuous hunting cycle as well that I think also is a big thing, schedule hunts around like risky entities rather than waiting for the real-time alerts. And finally, and you've mentioned it as well, the automation assisted kind of context, between the playbooks and agents to enrich your entities, fetch related signals and pre-assemble those timelines. It helps you reduce your mean time to detect and investigate. And kind of leaning towards there, I'm interested as well around the agentic AI because it's becoming a big topic. And so I want to get your input on how do you think it will transform threat hunting itself? As we're seeing all this different agents and everything coming into play, it's starting to become, it's a real thing now, it's big, and on every event, Black Hat and RSA, we've seen it on multiple occasions as well.
Yeah, Vlad, that's a great point. It is inevitable, right? We are going to see more and more systems using AI and agentic AI as an overall, capability within the product suite. How we are using that here today is really for goal-directed systems that can operate contextual awareness and, give Ben and Justin and the SOC team a heads up, right? We just talked about long horizon, long tail analysis, right? It's breaking down a lot of those, I would say, monotonous tasks and complex investigations. And then frankly, it's helping force multiply the team, right? Some of the AI analysis that we get back from certain alerts, it is doing more in 30 seconds than a tier 1 SOC analyst could do, and maybe even some tier 2 SOC analysts. So it's giving them all this very rich context, very verbose outputs that allow the operators on our side to make quicker decisions with maybe information that they didn't have the skill set to achieve themselves without somebody like Ben or Justin helping them, or Ben and Justin actually doing it. It's force multiplying teams that way as well too. So I think that's one way that it's transforming what we're doing on a day-to-day on the SOC ops side. And again, this is going to lead to better detections at the end of the day, better upskilling of lower level SOC resources, and quicker detections, which also means more security for our clients at the end of the day.
Yeah, essentially agentic AI is like, it acts almost like your kind of junior analyst, I guess, Todd, right? And, it autonomously follows like some leads and, pivoting across data sets, even maybe proposing possible attack hypotheses that you can do for humans to validate. And then, like you said, it dramatically increases the scale and speeds the hunts for you guys, so you can focus on things that are maybe larger and bigger, right?
I'll give you an example of that, Vlad, in a 30,000 foot overview. If we're getting endpoint detection alerts, right, these things are getting fed in not only from a story perspective, a storyline perspective from the EDR systems, again, whatever telemetry that may be, whether that be your CrowdStrikes, your SentinelOnes, your Defenders, right? They all pull back the same information. The AI systems are going out and proactively pulling those timelines in. Not only that, as those alerts are being triggered, right, it's providing very quick analysis, right? The second thing that it's doing, it's actually able to push endpoint in-memory forensic scripts down to those machines to get things like scheduled tasks and loaded modules in memory. And it's taking that, not only the alert, but all of that other additional context. It's going out and pulling that user in from Entra ID and looking at their department, user agent strings that they're using, operating systems, IPs that it's been logged into. Having a level 1 resource do that is possible, but things like doing memory forensics, running objects in loaded memory modules, right? That's not a tier 1 SOC task. It's able to do that and force multiply the team, meaning that we're getting level 2 kind of analysis out of that, where we're having a level 1 person determine thumbs up, thumbs down based upon the outputs of the AI. And then does it need escalated? Does it need closed? Or does it need sent to somebody like Justin and Ben? Because if one of those things are going off or certain things are coming back as suspicious, I think we all know on this call here that something more is afoot within these environments, right? And that's where Ben and Justin drive down those trailheads and drive them to closure.
That's a great example, Todd. And I was just thinking about the same thing. You know, we have a couple examples that I've seen speaking to some customers as well. And then, you know, from the events, you know, they're helping them with like suspicious login, like gathering like related endpoints and data on network and essentially presenting the analyst some narrative around it. Ben, Justin, I don't know, anything else you guys want to add to this one from your experience of working with this on a day-to-day basis?
In threat hunting, it's a lot of what we're doing is sifting through, as I lovingly call it, the crap. Sifting through the crap is one of the biggest challenges to threat hunting. You have to look through a lot of stuff to finally get to something that might be even suspicious enough to kick off a pivot search, right? So that's part of our day-to-day threat hunting with our hypothesis-based threat hunting is sifting through that crap. And I think that in the future, if we have an AI agent, it would be able to filter that down and just show us what results might be worth a pivot search. And I think that would speed up our processes a lot more and make us a lot more effective hunters.
As we kind of go through this, so we often see, like I mentioned before, the alert fatigue with everything that's going on. It's obviously reducing the alert fatigue. How do you see AI help focus on the right threats when we talk about overcoming the alert fatigue?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. AI is helping the SOC analyst quality of life. I will say that first and foremost. The SOC industry, and I think even still today, is a high burnout sector, meaning that if you come in and you feel that you have impossible workloads that you can't get through and you got 2,000 tickets sitting in queues, right? It wears on you after a while. Combined with that, you know, working 24-hour and shift work cycles, it takes a toll on a human. And typically, when we were at other organizations, we would see cycles of this, and we called it the college football program, right? We knew we would come in and get an analyst, and we would probably get 3 to 4 years out of them, and they would go on and do something else, right? We're seeing AI now helping prolong some of those SOC careers by reducing some of that burden and helping them get ahead of some of these things. If you feel like they're getting ahead in the SOC, right? The other thing is, I think if you have a very disparate tool set SOC analysts are working with, if you have maybe potentially multiple SIM systems, multiple XDR systems, multiple endpoint detection and identity technologies, that also is taxing. You can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? You have to be when you're working in those kind of environments. That is also very taxing on a human, and expecting them to be masters at each one of those systems at a level 1 perspective is not really feasible, right? Especially if you try to scale an operation. As far as the focus goes, it's bringing, to what Ben said, it's bringing what needs to be brought to the forefront and allowing those analysts to feel like they're getting wins. And frankly, they are, right? It's bringing the anomalous stuff ahead, and it does a very good job at it. It's shocking. I was one of the big, as Ben would say, AI deniers for a very long time. But implementing AI-based detection systems in our operations about 2 years ago has been one of the most transformative things we've ever done as a business here at RSM Defense.
That was a great point, Todd. And I think as well, like to your point, you know, it helps analysts focus on high risks, most relevant threats, essentially. So, and I think also that feedback loop allows them, you know, allow the AI to learn from the analyst actions, improving prioritization over time, and things like this.
Even with just traditional SOAR systems, it still wouldn't be possible to scale. I mean, we're on the precipice of having 300 managed services clients that we provide detection and response services for, and threat intel services and threat hunting services for. Even with traditional SIM systems, you're not going to be able to effectively scale the operation because it becomes a people problem at some point, right? Meaning that either the cost to run the business from a labor standpoint becomes too great. You have to implement these systems today because of all the signals and disparate sets of data that you're coming in, one client may have 26 different sources of data, right? Having a person expected to know all those systems is unfeasible and untenable. And then it becomes a business question, right? Is Do you want to continue to just to hire people? And, where again, it becomes a real estate question. Where are you going to put them all, right? It's not, it doesn't scale. You're going to have to, if you want to run an effective, even managed services, security operation today, you have to have some sort of AI, either agent or investigator or detection system mechanism in there leveling the playing field.
That's a great point, Todd. Ben, Justin, anything you guys want to add to this?
Yeah, I definitely have the perspective of the SOC analyst that Todd was talking about. It's definitely a high burnout profession. I was not somebody who was immune to that. About a year and a half, 2 years in, I was developing plans on how to move away from the SOC. And that's not because I didn't like the work or I didn't appreciate the work. Definitely it gets really, really draining, especially if tuning isn't as good as we've had it at RSM here. And the AI really helps us both tune and also ignore a lot of the stuff that would have made me burned out before. And it makes it, whenever you see all the same stuff over and over again, if something slips into those alerts you see every hour on the hour or every day, if you're getting used to the same clients every day, if you see all the same alerts happen again and then one different one slips in that was malicious, there's a high chance a human's going to miss that. But AI is really good at picking those out and presenting them. And I think that's the biggest advantage that AI has to helping the SOC with burnout for sure.
That's a great point. I completely agree with you, man. I'm also used to be a SOC analyst and many years ago, but I can tell you that at that time we were doing everything manually and it was draining and it was crazy and visibility was null to none in most cases, unfortunately. So a lot of the tools that we have today definitely helps us a lot to be able to be more proactive and also reduce that alert fatigue that we were talking about.
A little bit of comedic relief here, Vlad. I will still argue to the day I leave this industry that Excel is a SOC analyst's greatest tool.
I was going to say, Vlad, I broke off from the SOC to start the threat hunting program here pretty much right before we started all of the big AI and automation pushes that we made here. And part of me is a little bit jealous, but then the other parts are like, no, I like threat hunting.
It was a good learning opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the way everybody says, a good learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I think that goes back into the point I made earlier. Ben and Justin were once we started implementing these, and this is probably a question, Vlad, a lot of your clients and a lot of customers ask is, once we implement these systems, what's my role, right? And I think Ben and Justin had those same questions when we started the program here. Then we started all these AI initiatives and automation initiatives. Is I said, look, you guys are still it's actually going to drive more work to you guys. And that is rang true so much today that when these signals do go off, right, the SOC automatically takes care of a lot of the blocking and tackling, right, so to speak. But all of us here on this call know that once those signals start firing, there is something more afoot in these environments that needs somebody with a specialization like Ben and Justin to go in and drive those things to closure. What we end up finding is, well, there's 5 or 10 other things that bypass a lot of these systems, and these threat actors are maybe still in there, still have a foothold in environments, and that's when Ben and Justin are tasked with, identifying them and eradicating, right?
Actually, this is a good swing to our last question of the day for this podcast. Is exactly what you said, Todd, is like trying to see in the future, this kind of AI powered SOC, what will the role of the human hunters look like? And you were kind of talking already about it, and so I wanted to get your perspective. You kind of said it already, but anything specific that you guys are kind of coming through right now or that you see in the future as you're going through this transformation?
I'll give my 2 cents here, and I'll say it pretty bluntly is, I think, the human threat hunters are going to continue to evolve into what I would call strategic investigators and helping focused on advanced attacks and tuning detection logic. And they're going to have to handle complex and creative scenarios that demand, that contextual judgment that we were talking about earlier. You still have to have that human in the loop. They're going to continue to oversee a lot of these, and I think work in tandem with these AI systems to verify these high priority incidents and help develop new threat hunting hypotheses that's going to continue to drive their work and make the detection systems even better. Rather than, I think, being replaced, I think that's everyone's fear with these AI systems. These human hunters, again, will work in tandem, and it's going to amplify their own impact through automation and basically augmented human intelligence.
I agree. That's actually what I'm thinking as well. Even not just the threat hunter itself, like SOC analysts and any other specific roles. I think it's going to become more strategic itself. But in the threat hunting, like you said, they'll be there inventing new hunts, maybe, modeling adversary intent, using essentially agentic system to maybe iterate faster. So once humans validate a hypothesis, agents can operationalize at a scale, essentially support. You kind of hand to hand, you have that human factor that is working hand to hand with that AI factor. And now it becomes very, very powerful because you're creating this kind of double stream of force, one that has the speed and the other one that has that more strategic intent to understand at a high level of what can potentially be very, very important. Anything you guys want to add, Ben, Justin, for this?
Real quick, I do want to finish with one final thought on that, Vlad. You brought something up there. I think our ultimate intent here at RSM, and something we take very seriously here every day, is when we get involved in clients' security affairs, our goal is to ultimately deter and stop adversary goals on objectives, right? And their goals and objectives is your data, right, essentially. And again, I think if we either use automated systems or human intervention inside of that loop, we're force multiplying where we need to, and we're ultimately in line with the same goal of disrupting those adversary objectives. And how we do that, right? These systems are going to help augment and make that contextualization better at the end of the day for not only clients and disseminating, complex data sets, but also from the reporting standpoint of like, are you safe or are you, is the environment okay, right? But we're going to need humans to continue to do that, and people like Ben and Justin doing the work that they do every day.
I completely agree with you, Todd. Smarter, faster, better detection, everything. You're creating a powerful tool to a combination of the human factor and the AI as well. Ben, Justin, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Vlad. I think in a future of an AI-powered SOC, what the hunter will be more of a strategy leader, like you said. I think we will be setting the questions. We'll be able to sanity check those answers and then choose the response. We'll decide what to detect next and then teach that AI what good actually looks like and then translate that risk for the business. At RSM, that means leading with curiosity and then closing with accountability. AI is going to do the heavy work. SOC analysts, threat hunters, humans will steer and verify and communicate. I think that's how we're going to win in the future of AI. That's what that partnership is going to look like for the hunter and the AI assistant.
That's a great point. And yeah, that's the way I kind of see it as well, actually. Well, this is the end of our podcast. I want to thank RSM for your time and for your amazing insight into threat hunting. Todd, Ben, Justin, thank you so much for joining this. I think this is our 4th podcast or so. I'm not sure. Todd, we've done already 2, maybe 3. I don't know. Probably not the last one that I get to talk to you because it's always a great talk. And Ben and Justin, I hope you do it another one. That'll be nice. And thank you for everyone who joined us and then listening to this podcast. And to the next time.
Thanks for having us, Vlad. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Vlad.
Thanks, Vlad.